Hello, my name is Griffin Plourde. I am in Cohort C Virtual, and I am in Honors Biology Period 4. I chose to research the genetic disease, Trisomy 21. Over the past unit, our objectives were to explain how DNA led to cell differentiation in specialized cells and cellular function. We were taught to explain traits and how they are determined, and how to summarize the connection between DNA, RNA, and amino acid, what they make, and how they carry out the work of cells. Trisomy 21 is a chromosomal abnormality that takes place in the cells. This genetic disease occurs as a result of an extra copy of a 21st chromosome. For whoever possesses this extra chromosome is constantly subjected to increased difficulty in both mental and physical challenges. Trisomy 21 decreases the growth and the development of both the brain and the body. Trisomy 21 poses many unique traits that are used to identify the disease early on in the offspring's life period. Flattened facial features, as well as the lack of muscle tone, are some of the distinct traits of trisomy 21. Trisomy 21 is also harsh on the offspring mentally. The disorder decreases social comprehension of different concepts that would normally anger a person. This makes it harder for the offspring to communicate, as well as make friends in social situations. Possessors of trisomy 21 find social scenes hard to comprehend, and the lack of comprehension both confuses and angers them. Trisomy 21 affects health greatly, as victims are subjected to health challenges that might have been harder to contract without trisomy 21. Diseases like sleep apnea and infections in the ears and eyes are common due to irregular facial features. People with Downs struggle mentally, so when they are placed in socially confusing environments, they have trouble expressing themselves in the proper way. Environments that are stressful or abusive and negative tend to confuse people with Down syndrome because they have a great trouble comprehending what events are occurring and interpreting how others feel. This causes a great deal of frustration and causes them to act out of rage and do violent things. That is why it is important for people with Down syndrome to be put in environments that are positive and nurturing so that they can express themselves properly and calmly. As much of a struggle as it is for an offspring who have contracted Down syndrome, it is also a very large adjustment for parents. Parents at first can be lost and confused as to how to help their child properly. That is why it is important for a parent to educate themselves on trisomy 21 and its effects on child development so that their parents can make better decisions regarding the physical and mental health of their child. With this understanding, parents should be able to better parent with a firm grasp on something that they might not have known before. I've listed some videos on the side about Down syndrome from a child's perspective and a parent's perspective, just to educate the viewer of this slideshow. We were first introduced to chromosomes and genetic material in NCES Unit 3.1. That is where we learned that trisomy 21 is the result of a formation of an additional set of the 21st chromosome. Another process learned in the past unit is cell differentiation. This is a lengthy process that is the repeated fertilization of the female egg and the division of the cells until certain cells that specialize in certain processes are created. This is the process for how cell specialization occurs. The concept of sexual reproduction creating genetic variation is introduced. The concept states that unique offspring are produced from two mates when the DNA is crossed from the two different mates. There's a 50% chance of gaining mother characteristics or a 50% chance of gaining father characteristics. The likelihood of Down syndrome in an offspring increases the older the female mate gets. Down syndrome is a recessive trait, and the odds of it increase with age due to infertility as a woman nears menopause. The odds of getting Down syndrome are much greater than expected, as it is 1 to 700. Down syndrome is a disease that can't necessarily be cured. There are many different programs that can be used to mentally prepare kids with Downs for the real world and to help increase cognitive processes and social awareness. These programs help to focus on the child's need and nurture them properly so they can eventually function without help. There are also programs that allow Down kids to experience the world in ideals such as living alone and working a job. This is great for easing Down syndrome kids into real world ideals. These programs to sort of decrease the lasting effects of Down syndrome. That is their purpose. Deoxyribonucleic acid, otherwise known as DNA, is a molecule that carries information about the traits that make up the specific offspring. An increase in genetic material or extra material is what makes up unique features of Down syndrome. This is due to the fact that Down syndrome is a genetic disease. DNA is important because if it is compromised, kids with Down syndrome are more susceptible to disease, like cancer, due to impaired cellular reaction. Down syndrome can be viewed as mutated DNA. This mutated DNA makes life much harder as it slows cognition and increases difficulty of thinking and interacting. I feel as if scientists must start to work towards an annual actual care for trisomy 21. The amount of offspring contracting Down syndrome is rapidly increasing and isn't stopping anytime soon. If a cure can't be found, we must create more developmental programs that will teach kids with Downs to better interact with society and be able to live successfully by themselves. If Down syndrome won't go away, we must focus our efforts toward decreasing the lasting effects. I feel as if developmental options must be offered more frequently and discussed more so that people with Down syndrome or kids with Down syndrome are more aware of their options. These options go a long way in decreasing the lasting effects of Down syndrome. Establishments like DS Connect, for example. DS Connect is great because it aims to increase coordination and communication between families experiencing similar troubles and experiences in the real world dealing with Down syndrome. On the side, I have listed what DS Connect is and how it helps parents. Different types of Down syndrome must also be taken into consideration, and people must be more educated on these. There is trisomy 21, translocation Down syndrome, and mosaic Down syndrome. Trisomy 21 is a normal type of Down syndrome that most people see and accounts for 95% of the Down syndrome population. Translocational Down syndrome is where there's an extra 21st chromosome translated and attached to another cell. This affects 3% of the Down syndrome population. Mosaic Down syndrome affects 2% of the Down syndrome population and has less of an effect than the others due to typical chromosomes. Meiosis plays a large role in trisomy 21 and in translocational Down syndrome. Non-disjunction is the failure of sister chromatids to separate during nuclear division. This causes a whole chromosome to be carried over and creates imbalances leading to trisomy 21 or translocational Down syndrome. Right here I have listed the visual representation of different levels. I'll pause if you'd like to see it. In the US alone, there are over 400 people with Down syndrome, and 25% of US families are affected by this. We need to stop looking at Down syndrome as a disease and more as an abnormality and start to find ways to increase awareness to help integrate Down people into society. The number is not slowing. Children and adults do, however, share features, so I feel as if we could increase communication and awareness of Down syndrome, that we'd have a better chance of integrating these kids into society. We must also be more considerate of people with Down syndrome, and we must be more patient as they do struggle more than an average human would. But I believe with this patience and these new programs that there can be a cure for Down syndrome. I'll pause for a second so you can see my citations. Thank you for taking your time to watch my slideshow. I hope you have a good day.